Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third edition of our Volume 2 Meet the Engineer series of events. I welcome everyone once again. My name is Sham Kolorambata, and I will be your host and panel chair for this evening. I think I'll give a couple of minutes for our audience to join, and I will carry on with the hosting and the session and the agenda for today's evening. Okay, I think that's 2 minutes past 6. Welcome again, everyone. This is the third edition of our Volume 2 Meet the Engineers series of events. My name is Sham, and I'll be your host for this evening. So this event is an opportunity for young students, school leavers, and degree holders to understand more about engineering, both in terms of work itself and in terms of personal experiences. We have got a few house rules before we move on to the session. I'll quickly go through that. This event is being recorded, so those who are unable to attend this event live and those who are looking to revisit this event in future can access it. We will be posting the CPD certificates just before the end of this event. We'll also be sending out surveys, so I'd kindly request if you all could give us your comments. It actually encourages us more to do such meaningful events in future. Please use the Q&A function within the Zoom, which is down below. You can ask your questions for our key speakers today. This webinar should take about 45 minutes to 1 hour, and we will keep it to time. Moving on to today's agenda. So today's speakers are two young apprentices, Denize Pilarta and Joe Sebastine. They'll be speaking us about their journey so far, their experiences as an engineer at their workplaces. I don't want to spoil the event by just giving more on what we are expecting from our speakers, but Denize will go first and followed by a Q&A session, and then we'll have Joseph speaking with us, followed by his Q&A session, and then we'll have a wrap-up, a few announcements, and we will close the event at about 7. So Denize, if I could hand over the stage, as we call it. So I call upon Denize for her journey on her career.
Yep, I'll just So hi everyone, thank you for joining us this evening, and thank you for having me as part of the Meet the Engineers series. I'm Denize Pilarta, and I'm a senior non-destructive examination ND for short, engineering technician working for BAE Systems Submarines. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about my beginnings, walking a bit through BAE Systems Submarines, and talking through my job role as part of non-destructive examination. Also going to give some description about my journey to where I am today, and then leave you with a few key takeaways. So I've lived in Barren-Furness basically since I was 2 years old. I'm originally from Philippines. So where Barren-Furness is, it's in Cumbria, basically at the tip of it, and it's only a stone's throw away from the lovely Lake District. So a bit about the town. It's a town really steeped in this really rich industrial and engineering shipbuilding history. And looking back, ever since I could remember, I've always kind of had a passion for science and STEM, everything about it. And this kind of started at school. So I'd always have gravitated towards it during school, and I knew that everything, all the science experiments, how practical and how hands-on it was, kind of drew me into it and fed my creative mind. So it was kind of in this moment that I knew that I wanted to pursue this as a career. So I did triple science on top of my GCSEs at school because I wanted to kind of progress my learning. So this picture is actually of me in my triple science class, me right on the end there on the front row. And then during A levels, I actually went on to do biology and chemistry. So it was really at college where I started to think about my career choices as a whole. So my tutors and parents were really trying to guide me and help me through that kind of difficult time. But they were kind of under this preconception of university was the best and only way towards a successful career. And for me, I knew I had a practical preference for hands-on learning. So it just didn't seem like the best fit. But with saying that, going back to my local area, I'm really quite fortunate to live where I am, as there's so many kind of globally recognized STEM companies basically at my doorstep. So I began to start researching different apprenticeships, and BAE Systems offered the non-destructive examination engineering technician one, NDE for short, and basically had no idea about it at first. It's kind of one of them hidden gems that when you discover it, you start to fall in love with it. So that was me at this moment. And reading the description, it was sciencey, hands-on, practical, can learn from the industry's best. So basically it ticked everything I was looking for. And I was really quite lucky to get through all the stages through my interview prep and passing all them aptitude tests for them to then offer me the apprenticeship. And you can kind of say the rest is history, but that's really what led me to where I am today. So now focusing on BAE Systems as a whole, we're a globally recognized defense company with a variety of products from air, land, and sea. And here at Barrow-in-Furness, we are the main location for the design, build, and commission for really complex submarines. So we currently have a 150-year legacy of shipbuilding, and right now we're currently completing work on our Astute and Dreadnought class submarines. So these itself are extremely massive feats of engineering, and they have the capability of essentially circumnavigating the globe without surfacing. The only limitation, of course, is food supplies for their crew. So as a company as its whole, they're really invested in apprenticeships. They offer a whole range of different ones from really different entry levels, from being a designer to a welder, engineer, engineering technician, project manager, and so many more. So they're really invested in kind of cultivating their workforce by investing in their future workforce, our future talent, so to say. So to explain non-destructive examination, I don't know how much people know about it, but me first starting, I had no clue. And so this basic rundown is we are a really important part of quality control. So essentially, our main purpose is to ensure the integrity of all structural components and critical systems. So every single part of the submarine has been through a quality check through NDE. So we do this by completing various methods, kind of scientific inspection techniques. And these include visual inspection, surface flaw detection, which includes magnetic particle and dye penetrant, as well as various forms of ultrasonics, with that being manual ultrasonics, time of flight diffraction, and something called phased array. So what I really love about ND and my job itself is that every single day is different. one day I could be using magnetism to find these kind of surface and breaking defects that are unseen with the human eye, to the next day using sound energy to produce these cross-sectional images to really show what lies beneath a surface of a part. So it's really important to kind of remember that quality is everyone's responsibility, and we kind of like to share that. We really need to keep it in at the heart of everything we do, no matter what kind of task at hand it is, the size of it, or criticality. Just try and give everything your best efforts. So now to look back on my overall journey, I feel like it's kind of gone in a snap of the fingers. It's gone so quick. So looking back, I'd have to say that my journey career-wise started back in September 2017, when I first started my 3.5-year apprenticeship as a ND engineering technician. So during my apprenticeship, I managed to really build up on a lot of skills and qualifications and competencies, from leadership, team building, communication, and even gained quals like my level 3 national diploma in engineering, my national vocational qualification for engineering technicians / professionals, as well as level 2 personal certificates in ND for multiple techniques. So during my apprenticeship, I really was able to really gain a key stepping stone in my career, from learning from basically really qualified tradespeople with 10, 20, 30, even 40 years of experience, passing all that knowledge on to me to really help me build up on that. And looking back, I feel like I absolutely threw everything into every opportunity I had. So to talk about some of them, I was involved in a lot of different enrichment things. I was involved in the local apprentice council, which I then progressed to lead and become chair of. Basically, I was leading my team to kind of bring about these positive changes for our submarines apprentice population. This then also led me to being part of the National Apprentice Council as a business representative. And essentially, I was collaboratively working to try and bring about a national transformation of our BAE Systems apprenticeship schemes. With that, I was also involved in a lot of educational events, being the World Skills Live UK, and also a educational event called the Road to Engineering that BAE actually hosted. So it was really here where I could have hundreds of conversations with young people, showing the different depth of early career opportunities available, as well as showcasing the different ways to get into engineering, because I really felt like there was something for everyone out there, no matter what their interest was. And I felt that this was really important, as I was helping to spark interest, and as well as helping the young people make more informed decisions about their futures. Another really key aspect of my apprenticeship was that I was involved in a innovation project, and essentially I was acting as the ND lead, bridging both production and engineering together when we were trying to evaluate a new technology called eddy current array into our business as an alternative for one of our current methods called magnetic particle inspection. And my work and findings in this technical report I wrote led to experimental trials of the new tech to be brought onto the shop floor in order to gain support from our customer. So fast forward, I'm happy to say I time completed my apprenticeship back in March 2021 last year, and they offered me a permanent position to kind of continue my duties. So when looking back at my development, it didn't stop when I finished my apprenticeship. And that year that I've had on, I've managed to get my engineering technician kind of post nominals. as well as joining the British Institute of Non-Destructive Testing, as well as then being involved in some of their committees and branches. I'm part of the Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Group for the Institute, as well as being now the Vice Chair of the Early Careers branch that we've just set up, because I'm really motivated to try and help our early careers population across the industry. Since time completing, I've also been offered a more senior role in the department, as well as a lot of other fun stuff. So reflecting on every journey, it's always going to have its highs and lows. And so to touch up on that, some of my highs would be that I've actually been honoured enough to be named the Make UK National Engineering Apprentice of the Year Rising Star, as well as the IET's Young Women Engineer of the Year Mary George Memorial Prize last year before Delaney, who some of you may know. And looking back, I think my biggest achievement to date is the amount of growth I've actually been through since starting my apprenticeship. I kind of came in dead shy, reserved, timid, and in my shell, lacked quite a bit of self-confidence in myself and my abilities. But now through throwing myself into every opportunity I had, I feel like I've come kind of full circle, and public speaking was a main kind of area of fear for me, but I'm glad to say like I'm doing this today and talking to you all. Still got a way to go with that kind of thing, but you know, I'm a work in progress. So every journey is not complete without a few lows, and definitely some of them have been my lack of self-confidence, but also about some of the failures and challenges I've had to go through throughout my kind of route in here. But I felt like it's really important for me to have kind of shift the way I viewed them and reflect up upon them to try and get me through those situations. So to kind of end my presentation, I'd like to leave you on a few key takeaways for this evening. So my number one piece of advice is don't be afraid to fail. I know it's really hard to say that at the time and when you're definitely feeling it, because I've been there myself. I know exactly how it feels. But it's really important that we try and shift these negative kind of situations and shift them into how we view them and perceive them, because really they could lead to some really key pieces of learning that we could actually bring with us in the future. So we're all human here. Everyone's probably gone through it at the time, no matter how successful you are. Some of you might be thinking, why, Denize, have you put Oprah Winfrey on here? She's literally got a $2.6 billion net worth itself, but it just goes to show she's even been through it myself. And to leave on this kind of bullet point, Oprah herself has said that failure is another stepping stone to greatness. So the second thing I'd like to say to you today is try and keep continuously learning, not just in an educational aspect, but also learn from your experiences about yourself, how strong and resilient you are, as well as learning from other people, whether that be new ways of thinking or even getting that knowledge share passed down to you. And also learn from the world around you, as each opportunity will give you a new thing to learn about. And finally, my last point is make the most out of every opportunity available to you. You never know how many doors and new pathways that's going to open to you. So it's up to you to go and find them. But it's really key to remember that enjoy every moment of your journey and really go out there and see what the world has to offer you. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much, Denize. It was actually a really wonderful presentation. I was actually writing some notes. In fact, while you mentioned your recognitions, that's when I actually realized I have actually met you during one of the IET meetings, I believe.
Yeah.
Apologies, I didn't recognize earlier, but yeah, congratulations on the recognitions. In fact, from IET and the Rising Star, I think the early careers. Great to know. What I liked about your presentation was I haven't seen much presentations, much people actually talking about their lows, in fact, but you including that into your presentation, I think it's an eye opener to everyone that nobody has got to where they are with just having highs. You know, there are lows in everyone's career, and that's something that most of them don't actually speak about, but absolutely brilliant. And I like the way you went into the key takeaways. And actually, yeah, I was even having doubts on the picture of Oprah. I was like, why is that there?
Yeah.
You know, I was like, and it's written failures underneath. So I was like, okay, she's pointing towards you and saying you are a failure. Okay, that wasn't it, but there's more towards her life story. But great stuff. I think one of I'll kick off a question that I had. So you, where do you see your next journey from where you are right now, Baden? Do you see yourself just being at BAE, or are you okay to sort of spread your wings and fly on to another company or another environment to sort of share the
Ooh.
experiences? Um,
With that, I feel like because I love what I do itself as a whole, there is a lot of ND in different companies, but I feel like with mine, I've kind of had this progression plan of moving more into ND engineering with tech, and because I have a lot of support from that and getting more involved in it. I think at the moment I'd hopefully like to stay at BAE and continue my progression, but more into investigating new technologies and how that could aid into kind
mm,
of where we could become better. But I'm open to anything if I see a really great opportunity for not jumping ship, but like moving on to see what it is to gain that kind of knowledge and experience from somewhere else, then I'm
mhm.
not going to say no to that.
Absolutely. No, thanks for that. Right. I think we have a question from Nicola. So she has asked, do you think it was harder for you as a woman to get where you are?
Ooh, I think at first it was a hard adjustment for me. But I wouldn't think it was as hard as I thought. Going back to my slide with me being in triple science, because we were only five of a class of basically 30, I kind of knew that if I was to get in STEM, it would be most predominantly men.
Mm,
So coming into the environment, I was the first female on my team, and still kind of ish the only female now currently working in here, in my office, so to say. There is other females in our department now since I started.
mhm,
But I do think it was quite hard for me to adjust to that environment, kind of learn where I stand. And I feel like it was hard to try and get used to it, and being very vocal about why we need it, especially as a woman, to really kind of change that aspect. But
mhm.
hopefully I'm encouraging more females to join us because it is a great field.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As someone, as many has, in fact, mentioned in the chat, it's a great inspiration of where you have come from. In fact, Willington has also asked a similar question to what I did ask. So Willington, I hope you have got the answers. Rob has asked, do you see a value in continuing a development and to become a chartered? A good question.
Definitely. I think it's in my current plan. Just receiving my kind of engineering technician thing, post nominals, not recently. I think it was like a couple of months ago, more about a year ago. I think that's definitely in the pipeline. You know, I want to progress and go through those different kind of chartered
Mhm.
kind of verifications.
Yeah. Yeah, no, great answer, great answer. Right. I think I'll finish off with one more question that I had while I was listening to your presentation. Was it really hard for you to actually get into such an apprenticeship program at the beginning? You know, were there like a lot of applications that you had to deal with? What was that journey like? Because this is the Apprentice Talk event, and I think people would be really, our audiences will be really happy to know if you really struggled. Is there any quick way to get into something like that? What's your take on it?
So my kind of struggle was with, because I was quite academic, everyone kind of put me in, she's going to go to uni. Let's not think about apprenticeships, work experience. What is that? I was going to uni all over to try and figure it out. So I think that was the hardest part for me. Really trying to prove to people, right, no, I need
Mm,
support, but I was kind of trying to find that myself. Um, in the ease of it was because I lived in my local area, there's so many companies offering them, from BAE Systems, Siemens,
mm,
GlaxoSmithKline at the time, that the apprenticeships were out there. It was just how to apply to them. And then when I was actually applying, I had an application process. So I had set questions I had to answer. So
mm,
I spent a lot of time researching how to
mm,
put these words into it, what would stand out. And then that got screened, got invited to aptitude tests.
mm,
So essentially, I did a lot of practice for my aptitude tests because I really wanted to nail them. So
mm.
these were like verbal reasoning, English, maths, kind of like pattern things that you needed to figure out.
Yeah.
And then I was invited to a final interview. So at this point, I was also applying for GlaxoSmithKline, got declined from that one. And then with BAE Systems, I thought I would never get in. So I was kind of going to go in like, oh, I'll just try and enjoy my interview. I've got nothing, like, I don't think it'll fall through, but luckily it did. So essentially, I did a lot of kind of practicing on my answers, what I would say,
Mm,
putting in like these methods of what I've done, and really ticking off real competencies that people are looking for. So
mm.
all that research kind of landed me the role to be an apprentice, and I was quite taken aback, but excited for the next steps.
Awesome, awesome, Roy. That's quite a tedious process, isn't it? That's like not just as simple as we think. Or as you said, it's a long process. I think months of work from where you started to where you're right now. But great, thanks for that. I think I think the gist of it is that you need a lot of practice. You need a lot of research to be done. You know, that can get you where you wanted to. Absolutely. No, great, Dennis. Thank you so much for your presentation and for answering our questions this evening. Um, right, I think it's time for us to move to our next attendees for the evening. We have Joseph Sebastine. I can see that he works in Dyson, but again, I'm not here to break any more surprises. I will hand it over to you, Joseph. Off you go. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Sham. So my name is Joseph, as Sham introduced me, and I'm from the northeast of England. So I live in a small town not far from Newcastle. I'm currently in the third year of a degree apprenticeship with Dyson, studying with Warwick University, and I'm currently training to be a data scientist, or working as a data scientist. So I guess my journey begins from quite a young age. I've always been interested in technology and STEM, and I used to always watch TV programs such as BBC Click. Some of you might watch that. And I used to always see them. They used to go to Silicon Valley, go to MIT, and you'd see these people working on really cool projects. And I used to think, when I grow up, I want to do something like that. That's definitely what I want to do. So throughout my primary school and secondary school, I just kind of had my eyes set on, this is what I want to do. So as a kid, growing up, my aspiration was, I want to study at MIT. I want to work on these interesting projects like the people on TV do. And I want to end up in some kind of Silicon Valley job working on the next groundbreaking technology. And even some movies that I watched as a kid, like Big Hero 6, the younger brother, he's like working on building small robots for the robot fights. And then his older brother takes him to MIT actually. And there he's working on interesting projects, and they seem to have like unlimited money to do cool stuff, and they seem to be being paid for it. And I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. And turns out the route I chose at Dyson didn't seem far from that. So in a way, some of my aspirations to work on cool projects at a university actually came true more so taking the degree apprenticeship route, which I'll get into. So when it came to my A-levels, I was doing the stereotypical STEM subjects, maths, further maths, physics, and chemistry. And I was quite academically focused and predicted to get quite good grades. But as much as A-levels, they interested me and I enjoyed my subjects, thinking about the prospect of engineering really never, engineering at a university, really never sat with me, because I realized as I grew up that university isn't really what I thought it was going to be. Of you just get to work on lots of cool projects, learn the latest technology and get to apply it straight away. It's a lot of studying, a lot of hours, a lot of exams, a lot of assignments. And I just thought that's 3 years or 4 years if I do a master's, even more if I want to do any further studies before I even like enter the world of work. And it kind of just demotivated me because it wasn't as interesting or as cool as I thought it was when I was growing up. But regardless, coming from an Asian background, my parents had always told me you should apply to the top universities. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to get a job eventually where you can do all the stuff that you're interested in. So I ended up pointing my direction towards Cambridge, Warwick, Durham, and universities like that, and keeping it to general engineering because I really wanted to learn more about engineering and specialize widely before I made a specific choice. And all of those degrees kind of work in the same way, where the first 2 years they're general, and the next 2 years you specialize, picking modules in what you're interested in. And that seemed like the best balance for me. It seemed like I get to do what I'm interested in, and it doesn't set me in stone in something like mechanical engineering, and I suddenly decide, actually, I'm interested in software engineering. It kind of gave me a wide range of options. And so I didn't even consider apprenticeships at all until just by chance, I found out about the Dyson degree apprenticeship. And it turns out they do the apprenticeship through Warwick with the same general engineering degree of 2 years general and then 2 years to specialize. But the whole time you're working and you get first-hand experience in the workplace to develop your skills working in different teams. And I thought this is perfect. So I applied for it straight away. And when it came to the Cambridge application, there were aptitude tests, but they were very specific, for meaning that you had to do a lot of practice papers to be able to have a good attempt at the aptitude test. But with the Dyson apprenticeship aptitude test, they were a lot more similar to CATS test, where it's like verbal stand-in, like pattern analysis, what's a numerical analysis, how quick can you do these questions. So very much like testing your ability from a more general standpoint, and you didn't have to practice for it. It's just if you were smart enough, you'd probably do well in the aptitude tests. And so as the stages went through, the interview stages were also very interesting. So it started with the telephone interview. And on the telephone interview, they gave a real world scenario of you join this team. At the time, it was the Dyson car, which was a project that got cancelled in the end, sadly. But it was something that interested me a lot. And they said, you've just joined the car project. And they gave you very hands-on questions of what would you do in this scenario? What would you do in this situation? And that suddenly really appealed to me. And once I'd crossed that stage, the next stage was going to the Dyson headquarters for the final stage of interviews. And that was working in teams to repair a design flaw in one of the machines they'd had for us, they deliberately introduced a design flaw and they put us into teams of 4 with the other interviewees, and we had to work as a team to solve the problem. And this was just, it was very enjoyable. Like it was obviously an interview, so we're competing against each other, but the whole experience was very fun. So I thought more and more, I was just thinking this degree apprenticeship route is definitely the one for me. And to talk more about the interview, we had to change out some parts, we had to build stuff, we had to write some code to program the motors, and eventually they kind of give you hints here and there to try and see if you can work as a team to fix the machine, and our team successfully did. And by coincidence, my whole team of 4 got selected to join the apprenticeship. So all 4 of us are now studying together. So when I joined the apprenticeship, the way they structure it is for the first 2 years, given the degree is general and you're doing electrical, mechanical, thermofluids, and software engineering, the workplace sort of complements that. So every 3 months you work in a different team. So I began in an electronics team, then I moved to a cloud systems team working with AWS. And then I moved into a tech dev team where it was a lot more mechanically focused, doing a lot of thermal research and building lots of test rigs hands-on and doing lots of testing in the lab. And the second year was new product innovation. So I was doing a lot of designing, drawing, and then taking those drawings and immediately putting into CAD models, printing them out and testing them. And it was a very fast-paced environment. And finally, I had a 3-month rotation in a research team, where there's a lot of experience gaining, reading different articles, different PhD papers, and being able to collate research and apply it to technology that you're trying to help develop. So based on these 2 years and gaining a wide range of experience and really developing what my interests were, all the professional skills that come with being in the workplace, I came to the decision to pick software engineering to specialize in my degree. And with regards to the team, the way the Dyson apprenticeship works, you can select any team. So I really wanted to do machine learning or data science. And I found a data science team that enabled me to pursue these interests. And the way it works with our apprenticeship is, instead of, when it comes to the end of your 2 years, you're interviewing the teams, you go around different teams and you ask, these are some of the things I'm interested in. Would you have the facilities and projects for me to be able to pursue these interests? And so the data science team were more than happy to accommodate my interests. And I've only been in the team since last August. And within that time, I've learned a lot. And I'd say I'm quite comfortable working alongside people in the field for many years. And I can feel like I'm almost equal, but in the sense that I'm not falling behind in the work. I'm not completely unknowledgeable, but when I do need to ask questions, I have that expert advice on hand. I can ask my colleagues and mentors for assistance as and when I need. And I think this is why I described taking the degree apprenticeship route for me felt like what I saw in the movies of like Big Hero 6 and watching the Click documentaries of all these people working the latest technology. And it's because although it is a job and it is studies and it does take a lot of time, it's definitely a lot more time than the degree route by itself. The degree apprenticeship route certainly takes a lot more effort, a lot more time, but it's enjoyable. It's stuff that I'm interested in. And anything I need to do, any training I need, any equipment I need to buy, the budget for most companies similar to Dyson is quite big. So if you can express interest, most people in the engineering environment are keen to support you. They're like, yes, that's something we can do. We can buy that in. We can send you on this training course. And the amount of learning that's available to you, if you want to pursue it, is endless. And I definitely don't think I would have got that on the degree route directly. For example, with with regards to working in the data science team, there are lots of things that interest me personally. So I spend a lot of my free time also doing projects. And for some of these machine learning projects, you need like a powerful computer to be able to process them at a fast rate. And because I work in the data science team, I'm very lucky to have the latest M1 Max MacBook. And retail price, that's £5,000, £6,000. So if I just want to do this as a hobby and I want to buy a laptop like this, I definitely could not afford it. But going through the degree apprenticeship route, the amount of facilities and equipment that's available to you is just endless. And I think that's the main thing I would say when comparing the degree apprenticeship route to the standard degree routes, is that the amount of learning you get from the apprenticeship routes is, from my experience, a lot more vast. And if your desire is really to learn a lot about your interests and further your interests, then it's certainly the best route to go for. With regards to other professional skills and soft skills I've picked up along the way, I've been the diversity inclusion lead for the Institute for the past year. And through that, I've also been part of the committee for the diversity and inclusion for the whole company. And doing that has allowed me to make a lot of useful contacts and develop professional skills and organize events and stuff I wouldn't do day to day in a typical software engineering role. And some of these things, if you took the degree route, also you would never experience until you enter the world of work. So if I had to conclude what are the main benefits of taking the apprenticeship route, it's definitely, if you have an interest and you're very motivated and you can tell people this is what I'm interested in, then the apprenticeship route and working in an engineering environment such as Dyson or similar companies, you can certainly further your interests as far as you're willing to go with it. And developing your professional skills, it's definitely the best place to do it too. And finally, with people thinking that this is very biased towards degree apprenticeships, I do think the degree apprenticeship route is a very workload heavy method of going about it, because you're doing, in my case, it's a 3-year bachelor degree spread over 4 years. So it's a bit more relaxed than it would have been if it was a 3-year degree. But with that and the workplace on top can be quite intense. And given I've been 3 years in the workplace, I would definitely say the workplace has been a lot more fruitful for my learning than the work degree itself. So I wouldn't worry if I was applying for an apprenticeship today, if I rewinded the years back to being in sixth form, I would apply for an apprenticeship based on my interests and looking at a company that can adequately support me. I wouldn't worry too much about the degree that's behind it, because the main place where you learn your skills, your technical skills and your professional skills is definitely the workplace. And yeah, thank you all for listening.
Right, thanks. Okay. All right. Sorry, some technical issues, but thank you, Joseph. That was indeed a great way to present your journey, I would say, because I've seen a lot of presentations, even to the Denize, we're going through presentation, but it was interesting to actually listen at the time to what you have gone through and how we have got to where you are. I think I'll start with, in fact, I very much related to what you were saying about, how movies inspired you, how all these series has inspired you in getting into where you are. Because I am one of those persons, I think, who was inspired by one of the movies into what career what should I be learning. Me being a mechanical engineer myself, I can very much relate to you. And I was actually smiling when you mentioned that it was those that created you in thinking in this road. But excellent. I'm not alone now. I have someone to point out and say, see, even he have gone through that road. Great. Right. So you did mention that during your interviews at Dyson for the Dyson car. Yeah, unfortunate they couldn't come up with it. But you did mention that you were given real life scenarios and you could actually answer it. Were you actually prepared with these answers, or was it like something that just came up to your mind? What was sort of your thought process when all these real life questions were asked?
Um, to give you one example, with one of these like technical questions, they kept it so much so that accepting that he's a sixth form student, he doesn't have professional experience. They kept it to that extent. But for example, they'd show a product and it'd be cut in half and they try and point to different objects, kind of leading you to be like, the airflow comes in through this section of the product. And what do you think this sensor does? And it really challenges you to like think and try and look at the other elements and see like, oh, okay, that's a heating element. And what does that sensor do? Okay, it might be to control the temperature. Or so that's just a out of context example. Not give the exact interview scenario. But it was that type of thing, and it really challenged you from a technical perspective. And with regards to the telephone interview of you're put in this position, what would you do? They would ask, for example, you've joined this team and you don't know anything. What would be the steps you'd take to try and learn more about the project, understand your work better? And the types of questions, the type of way I answered it was I would ask questions. I would not be afraid to reach out to colleagues and line managers and ask all the questions I need to know so that I can approach their projects appropriately.
Absolutely. A great point there. I think ask questions. Yeah, if you are in doubt or if you don't know anything, ask questions. Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great point. Thanks, Joseph, for that. Right, we have a few questions from our audiences today. Max and Kareem. So they have asked, what is the balance in terms of time between work and studying with this type of apprenticeship?
Well, it depends what you're going for. So in my case, I'm very motivated to get a first-class degree. So to get a first-class degree, it requires a lot of effort. And I recently tried to break it down because I'm someone who's quite sporty. I like to do, a lot of my time goes into playing sports and exercising, cycling. So, and they're time-consuming things. So for me, I had to break it down. And university per week, the lectures are about 7 hours per week. Individual study, if you're really wanting to complete all the questions, all the revision material week by week, is going to be about in the region of 20 hours commitment on top of your work and your lectures. And that increases when you have assignments. So it is intense. But what I will say is getting a first-class degree is not everything. That's just something I'm motivated for. Coming out of this degree apprenticeship with a second-class degree and maybe dedicating more of your free time to developing some other skills or enjoying a more balanced university life would also be a perfectly good option for some people.
Yeah, art of balancing, isn't it? Great. Nice one. Thanks, Joe. Rob Deeves, I've asked you a question. Joe, was it useful to go around different departments, or would you have preferred to stay with one department for your studentship?
It was definitely very valuable being able to experience a lot of different teams, because not only did I gain different technical skills, but understanding how an engineering company works from a top level of seeing this is what the new product development department do, this is what the later stage departments do, this is what the pre-production departments do. And what I realized after now like 2-3 years into the degree apprenticeship and understanding how your typical R&D company works is that other companies also work in a very similar way, and gaining that knowledge of how companies function is invaluable, as well as, of course, the technical skills you learn, such as for example, in my current software role, I don't learn anything to do with, for example, fluids modeling, testing, anything
Yeah.
like that, any CAD building. I don't do anything like that anymore, but I'm lucky that I've had previous experience. So now when it comes to any meetings or conversations, I have that existing knowledge that I can relate better.
True.
And that's what the
Great.
engineering career is all about, is being able to relate to other people.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, well said, Joe. Yeah, thanks for that. I think a final question from Wellington. Have you had any challenges in your diversity inclusion lead position?
Yes, and I would say because I'm from an ethnic minority, it's something I'm very passionate about. So I can end up spending too much time trying to pursue some of these initiatives or work hard to like make sure things go to plan. But I think the biggest challenge is knowing how to understand all cultures and include everyone, because when it comes to diversity inclusion, it's all right if you can just, because you have a lot of Muslim employees, you can support them with the month of Ramadan, giving them free food for that month so that they can take it home and eat it when they break their fast. But that's not including everyone. For example, there's a lot of Jewish people conducting Passover at the moment, and there's countless other religious festivals going on. It's important that you're very aware of everything and making your best efforts to cater for everyone at the same time. I think that's the biggest challenge.
That's the challenge. No, absolutely. I feel your pain. Right, Denize, if you could join us as well for this very last question from Claire. I think I'll ask Denize first, and then Joseph, you can also give some comments on that. So how does the degree apprenticeship work practically? Do you live on a university campus, and how do you travel to your workplace, Denize?
So my apprenticeship was more advanced. So I essentially did a year in college for my first year full time, and then from my second year I then transitioned on site to then do kind of college release, where it did come to kind of certain courses, but also now just finishing my apprenticeship but still going to university from the company. I do it online, so there's opportunities to do a kind of virtual virtual learning.
And Joseph, how do you find it? Do you live in university campus, or how do you travel to your workplace?
So the company is based near Bristol, which is very far from Warwick University. But in your first year, every year they take on 40-degree apprentices. So in the first year, they give you campus-style accommodation. So you're walking distance to work, walking distance to your lectures, because the work lectures, they come to our sites. And then second year onwards, I have a house share with my fellows students on the course. And now I just get to and from work and lectures just by the bus provided by the company. Okay,
great. Wonderful answers and wonderful questions. Thank you so much, your audience, for your key questions. I think one last thing to end, I would say, if I were to basically go back few years back, like really few years back, I think I would really look into having an apprenticeship program, and having my degree and the apprenticeship degree. It's something that I think I missed of my life, and probably I mean, no offense, everything is good to where I am at the moment, but look, hearing to both of you, I think apprenticeship program is something that really helps you, both in studying and being at a workplace and having more learning. I think that's something both of you mentioned. The amount of learning when you're in an apprenticeship program compared to having a degree is absolutely more. Thank you so much, both of you, for today's presentation and being part of Meet the Engineers. Before we split, I think I'll make a few announcements. So we do have, we are calling out for more apprentices. So our colleague Dilani, we along with the Young Professional Committee on the Apprenticeship Focus Group. So we are looking for apprentices to join the YPC Apprenticeship Focus Group. It's the Young Professional Committee. This group will have the opportunity to share their thoughts on the IET and help making an impact. We will value all your feedback, and who else can give a better feedback than yourself, for sure. So please spread out this word, see if you're fit for the role, and if you are, as you could see on the screen, please email to Dilani Salvanathan at ietvolunteer.org. Thank you once again. So this was organized to you by the IET London Young Professionals Network. We have Toby Elushakin, Dilani, and myself who are part of the team and organizing this event. Please follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, wherever you can find us. Please give us a like. And yeah, please stay tuned for more of these. We also have an IET apprenticeship page where you can, give your sort of thoughts and comments on apprenticeship programs and IETs. There will also be a survey sent out to you by email after this event. So we value your feedback. As I mentioned, please do appreciate. I do really appreciate if you could give your feedbacks. With that, I wish you all a very good evening and have a wonderful evening, everyone. Please stay tuned. We have more events coming in the series of Meet the Engineers. Bye, everyone.